Good afternoon, everyone. This is Scott, and welcome to the weekly trade report video for the week of March 5th, 2017. So, first up, guys, let's take a look here at the Dow Jones ETF. And so, the market is very resilient here. We've had quite a run, and so let's just take a look at what's going on here. So we had this range breakout back here, and the market just took off, running. And then after Trump gave his speech to Congress, we had this big gap up day, and the market ran, I think, the Dow ran up like 350 points or something on this day. And so a lot of sectors broke out on that day, the financials, and just across the board there's a lot of strength. And so my thinking on that move was that it could potentially be kind of a euphoric blow off top scenario where typically at the end of movements, whether it be in an individual stock or in a sector, there's an extreme move, either to the downside in a downtrend on heavy volume, or to the upside on heavy volume with a really fast move up, and that often can mark a reversal in the trend, the prior trend. So that was kind of what I was thinking going into Thursday and Friday. So I was looking at potentially going short after that move on Thursday, but I didn't actually short anything on Thursday. Basically, I'm not the best at short selling. I'm really good at trading breakouts, but I do want to get better at shorting because eventually the market is going to turn around, and I'd like to be able to trade to the downside too. So it's just kind of on Friday I was trying to short Nvidia, and did pretty good with it, but we'll talk about that later. So, but just looking at the indexes, the market's still very resilient here. It's too early to tell for me whether or not that is really a blow off top, and this is just going to some sideways consolidation before it actually rolls and goes lower, or if it's going to consolidate and then move higher. So at this point, I'm still seeing lots of good setups in a lot of the sectors, so I'm trying to focus on individual names more so than the major indexes. But so at this point, the Dow does look extended, but there's still a lot of good setups, so that's what we'll be focusing on. Basically a similar story there for the SPY. We had basically the big Trump gap and run, and then Thursday kind of was slightly red, and then Friday was basically a flat day, and so just still in a consolidation mode after that big move. IWM small caps, kind of similar thing here. They had this resistance at around 138, and it had a break, and still finding support around this 138 area. So still kind of in a tight range here after this breakout. So really just kind of range bound at this point. Next up is the financial sector. So this one was pretty interesting here. So whether you trade the financials, or there's another one called, I think it was KRE. So let's take a look at, this is XLF, the other one is the banking sector ETF KRE. So both of these kind of a similar pattern here. I was seeing this last week, and this looked like a flag pattern here, and it looked like it was going to go up. And I was talking on Twitter about how I would want to buy this thing through this 58 breakout. Well, what I did actually is before the breakout, I actually did enter some position down in this area here, anticipating the breakout. And so on this day when it broke out, it looked kind of extended here. So I actually took profits on the position that I bought the day before the breakout, and then it actually continued running the rest of the day, which I didn't catch that. And so I didn't actually trade the breakout day on the financials. I was mentioning you could buy dips intraday on pullbacks, which I just never did get around to doing. And then on Thursday, which was kind of concerning to me, you can see here on KRE, and also just as well on XLF, where it basically gave all of it back and then closed below the low. So this was kind of a bearish kind of candle here on Thursday, which kind of had me concerned that this was a blow off top here in the market as well as the financial. So this is where I kind of look kind of bearish. But you know, Friday it held up pretty good. So maybe it's just that this was kind of an overextended gap up play, but it's still well above the breakout on the financials, and so, and a lot of the banks still look pretty good. So maybe it's just you know, just too much too soon, and it was just kind of pulling back and consolidating at this point. So at this point, it still looks pretty good, the XLF. So we could see some strength there in the banks going forward, as long as this this may actually hold this gap here, but as yet to see if that's going to play out. All right, so IBB. So the IBB, the biotech sector, has been really strong. There's been a lot of really good setups in the sector. Just to name a couple of them, you know, IMGN, SUPN, Cara. There's been a lot of them. A couple of them I missed from last week that I was on my watch list, but this was the recent high right around this 295 area, and you can see how it broke right through that, and it's just still continued grinding higher. So for whatever reason, the biotechs are pretty strong here. This was another resistance level up here at 300, and you can see it broke that resistance, it broke that resistance, and I mean, actually that resistance at 300 was pretty important, and now it's through that. So we have to go back. I mean, that was a that's a 1 year high, new 1 year high for the biotechs. Let's see. So yeah, the biotech sector actually looks pretty good here, and there's a lot of good looking setups in the sector. So that'd be an area to focus on for next week and then going forward, because they look really strong. So the biotechs look really good right now. All right, next let's look at the XLE, the energy ETF, Energy Select Spider ETF here. So what I'm seeing on this chart is, you can see this is a downtrend. Let's go in. Okay, so let's take a look at a trend line. So if I'm looking at this chart, what I'm seeing here is a series of lower lows and lower highs, and here would be the area where you would draw your downtrend line across the peaks, right? Well, right in here, you can see where every dip kind of put in a lower low, right? Well, right here, this low, it didn't put in a new low, right? So it actually put in a double bottom. So there it is, right there, almost exactly right there, around $70 and I don't know, 50 cents or something. But right there is a double bottom, right? So there's your first sign of maybe the trend in the energy sector is reversing to the upside. So you got a double bottom, right? You failed to put in a new low, and now what you're looking for is a break of this trend line and a break of, I would say, this 72.90, 73 area. Once it breaks that, that would be an indication that this trend is breaking, because this is an important trend line here. So if that breaks, then you can say, okay, maybe, you know, it'd be confirmation. So first you got this double bottom, and then you get a break of the trend line. It'd be another confirmation for energy, for the energy sector. So that'd be something to keep an eye on if you're interested in trading energy names. All right, so now let's get into some individual names here. So IMGN, this one was one that, let's see here, so this was Friday. Okay, so basically this is a swing trade from last week that I traded. Okay, so right, so on Friday I was talking about this IMGN, watching this thing on the breakout through this 260 level, and you know, basically as it broke that 260 level, I took a position on Friday, and I did sell some into the close as it closed on the highs, and I took partial positions, but I carried a pretty good position into Monday. And on this gap up, I believe I sold some up here at around 286. Okay, so I made pretty good amount of money, but you can see here I just kept running the rest of the day. So I did miss this, right? But I did catch a pretty good piece of this move, which I'm satisfied with, but I probably should have held it a little bit longer, because it had the big volume, had the breakout, and you know, so I think a lot of people struggle with that, and I'm no different when it comes to not holding long enough. And so But this was a nice move. I did catch a pretty good meat of it, but there was definitely some more upside in this one. Right now, it looks like it may be consolidating after this move, so I'm not really seeing anything at this point. But this was just a really nice pattern, nice base, and as it broke out, that was the trigger to buy. So that was a great trade, although I could have played it better. All right, OWCP. So this was once again another top watch going into Monday that I failed to trade, and so the logic behind this was this one looked like it was going to break out through this area here, this 220 resistance after ramping up, pulling back, and then it closed right at the highs. And sure enough, they put out a PR on Monday, and it then gapped up. And so on this gap up, I was like, this is just too much, right? And I just didn't pull the trigger because I thought I didn't want to buy way up here. I wanted to get kind of a pullback, and they never got it. It just ran all day. So oftentimes, and I'm seeing this a lot, is that these gap ups, as long as they gap up and hold and stay, don't close below the opening price and just keep going, it's often, a good idea to actually buy the gap. And you can see that also with the XLF, where the financials gapped up the day after Trump's speech, and then they ran basically all day. So if it gaps up on strength and then it starts running, you can actually still buy the gap up as long as you keep your stop tight, because you can see where this thing had a run, a really nice run this day, and you could have traded it. But now, obviously you're not going to hold it too long. This is an OTC, by the way, and this is what happens to these OTCs over as they get extended. They really pull back severely, and you can see that in CNBX and a lot of the weed plays because of the Sessions, Attorney General Sessions, and his comments about marijuana and stuff like that. Although I don't think there's anything going to come of it. I don't think they're going to mess with the states. I think that it's all going to come to light, and they're going to let the states do what they want with respect to marijuana laws. But the perception equals reality when it comes to the stocks, and that's what they do. They all kind of fell off. So, but anyway, this OWCP, no trade now. But this is one that it would have been a great trade if I'd have just bought it on this gap up day. But so anyway, there's OWCP. So BLD, this is a basic material building company stock. Just wanted to show the pattern here, and it was on our watch list for Monday. I think it was Monday. And so here was this nice coiling pattern here, and you can see the day before Trump did his speech. Makes you wonder, did they know he was going to talk about what he talked about, because they ran the stock up through this breakout point and then it gapped up and had a nice run this day, and so it still looks a little bit extended now. Maybe it needs to consolidate or pull back, but this was a nice tight coil, right? You had this clear resistance actually kind of right in this area right here. See that? Range getting tight, and then it breaks out. So this was just a pattern that really caught my eye, and sure enough it had a nice breakout. So although I didn't trade it, it was a nice setup from the watch list. Alright, so Mindbody, this one's still acting very strong. This one we were watching through this basically 26 area, and you can see that it had this kind of failed break here, and then it finally broke and then consolidated for a couple of days, and then had a nice day on Friday. This one looks like it's going to go higher, and it's still pretty strong here. I don't think it's too extended. I think if you're going to trade it, you would use kind of the depth of this pattern here. So let's use this peak here as the high of the pattern, and then use this down here as the low of the pattern. It's kind of give you an idea how you can measure. So then you take the low somewhere in 24, and then we'll call the high right around 26.40. So that's what, $2.40. You add that to the breakout level. So that'd give you 27, 28, 40, 28.80. So that would be a first target for this Mindbody if you traded this one. Alright, next up, RXN. Here's one from the watch list. Had a nice spot here, 22.80, right in this area here. Had the break, and still early breakout from this pattern here. And for the low down here, 2160. Take that depth, you can add that to this 2880, and that would be a potential target on this one. This looks pretty good, not the sexiest chart, but it still looks pretty decent. All right, ZYNE. This is a pharmaceutical biotech, and I think it's also in the marijuana industry as well. But it's an actual listed name stock, and it's a biotech. So, but anyway, the pattern I was looking at on this one was through this recent high. You know, from this candle here, ramped back up, pulled back, and it looked like it may want to break on this day, although it didn't do it. And so it pulled back here. So this one would be one to watch. You know, maybe it actually holds this 2150 area right in here, ramps back up near this breakout level right up in this area, and that would be one to watch for a breakout. It still looks pretty bullish here, so just it's pulling back right now, probably stabilizes and ramps back up near this high. It's forming a nice pattern here. I like it. ZYNE, so it's one to watch going forward. All right, so VPOR. So this was an interesting looking setup here. I didn't trade this thing, and I'm even though I do trade the marijuana stocks, you know, these sub pennies, I generally don't trade. Although, you know, back in 2014, this same stock went from, I think it was VPOR, went from less than a penny like it is now, all the way to 14 cents. So it had this monster run. As a matter of fact, look at that. So here is actually it went even higher. It went to 40 cents, right? And this was it 40 cents? Let's see, 5 years, 3 years. Okay, yeah. So this thing had a monster run. So I mean, don't underestimate some of these penny stocks can have these really massive moves. But this one, it looks quite interesting here. I was watching it as it broke out right in this area here, and then it ramped up, and now it looks like it pulled back, but it sure looks like it's going to reverse and head back north again. This pattern does look very bullish. I don't know if I'm going to trade it yet. If I do, it'd be with very small size. But it depends, you know, if there's some kind of bullish marijuana news about the Trump leaving the states alone or something along those lines, you know, the sector could come back alive and we'll be ready to jump back in. But so anyway, VPOR, just one to watch if you're interested in trading like the sub pennies. Okay, BWEN. So this is one that I did trade from last week. So here was the pattern. I had this spot at 550, and I was watching it. Looked like it was forming this nice ascending triangle, just like this, right? So on this day is the day I was watching it. And the reason 550 was, it was basically the high of this candle, and it kind of had resistance on this day. So 550 was a nice kind of solid round number. And if you look even further back on this one, back here too, so right there at this, see this high right here was also 550. So this level was really important spot here. So this is what I was watching on this chart. And so on this day, it actually opened up above the 550 spot. So it was like 555 or something. And so I actually got in right at the open and then quickly ran all the way to 580 or 90. And so that was a very quick move, very fast. And so I went ahead and closed my position. So it was a day trade, but I made like, I don't know, 6 or 7% on it. And I was happy with that. Now it does look like it's consolidating up here for maybe a move higher. So it could potentially go higher here, maybe through the high of these candles here. And it's still holding this kind of uptrend line right here. So BWEN, it could actually have some more upside. Although I doubt that I'll trade it. But I'll keep an eye on it though, maybe I will. Alright, so that was a trade from last week, and then let's see, BLPH. So this one is a biotech stock, and it's forming this really nice flag here. And so it was on my radar back on, I think it was Tuesday, And this spot right at 140, you can see kind of this candle here closed at 140, and this one closed right around 140, and then Friday, I actually think it, even though it's showing 138, it actually did close right at 140. So 140 is a key spot. It looks like it's ready to ramp up again, and you know, the sector, the biotech sector looks really strong to me right here. And so this is kind of the pattern I'm seeing. It's a bull flag basically. And so if this one can break 140, the next spot would be 150, and then potentially up here to the high, the 160, 170 area. So this one, if it can actually break through 140, I think it's going to get going. So definitely a top watch for Monday, this BLPH. Okay, so GALT, G-A-L-T, it's another biotech that I was watching, and let's see here, move this stuff. So yeah, this one looked pretty good. You know, here was the pattern, had this spot at 190, was kind of consolidating there, and this was what I was using, this kind of uptrend like this, right? Well, once that trend line failed, the pattern's broken, right? So this no longer is on my radar. I mean, maybe it stabilizes and then perks back up towards 190. Then maybe I'd give it another look. But at this point, you know, this is what I was looking at, this pattern, and it failed. So they don't all work. I didn't trade it, but I was watching it, and it's one of those things, guys, where, you know, if you enter the trade as it's breaking out, then you should rarely find yourself at a loss, because you're entering it right when the movement's beginning, and it should be profitable right away. So just make sure that if it's not acting right, or if it's not doing right, you know, cut your losses. And generally I use like a 2 to 3%, but oftentimes if it doesn't do what I expect it to do pretty quickly, then I exit the position. So you know, it's really critical that, you know, whether or not that I alert my exits on Twitter or whatever, make sure that you guys do that, because it's important. You know, don't just blindly follow me. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect, and but I do try to provide the best education that I can, and you know, best what I'm doing. And you know, a lot of trades last week, I missed a lot of breakout trades. Like SUPN was perfect, and I just didn't see it go. And because, you know, you can't catch everything. You know, it's like you can't watch everything. It's like herding cats trying to watch everything. But you don't have to catch everything. As long as you catch, you know, a few good ones a week and control your losses, you know, you can end profitable for the week. So all right, so let's go through a few more names. Let's see. SGMO, here's another biotech. So this was on the watch list last week, and a couple of spots. You know, 440 was one, and then also this 460 up here from this high. So it cleared both of those. It cleared both those levels, and you know, Friday it actually had a pretty good day, and so this one looks like it's going to go higher. You know, the big volume back there. Looking at a longer term chart, you see this downtrend. You know, basically bottomed out right here, cleared both these resistance. So this one looks good. It's above the 50-day, sector strong. So SGMO would be one to watch if you're interested. If I was going to trade it, I'd probably use basically 480 spot as an entry, a breakout of that. All right, next up is STLD. It's a steel name, one that I traded last week based on Trump's statements on steel. I thought that these steel names could get some momentum, and they did get a little bit of momentum, but it didn't sustain itself very long. But this pattern here still looks intriguing to me. This STLD through this 38 spot. So it's, you can see where it's tapped it a couple of times, got rejected, kind of flagged around 38, pulled back. And so I thought that if we zoom in, you know, right on this day right here is the day after Trump. And so I was buying this thinking it was going to break 38. So I actually bought it pretty low in the day, um, and it ramped up near 38, and for whatever reason, it just didn't break. And so the fact that it was kind of pulling back from that 38, I was actually going to swing it if it could actually close at 38 or above, and it didn't. So I actually cut it out. I closed it at 37.75 or something like that. So it was a day trade. I made some money on it, and then you can see what happened. It pulled back. Now it seems to be stabilizing. So if it perks back up, maybe it reverses and goes back near 38. I'll keep an eye on it. And if it breaks 38, I'd jump back in it. So the 38 spot is a key resistance, and that's the area I'm looking at to go long if it can actually break that. All right. Next up, GNK. So a couple of nice shipper names from last week. I think it was SBOK broke out. This one did not break, although I did enter it. Where I was, watching this thing. I didn't actually buy it. I was gonna buy it on, say, Thursday. I thought it was gonna break through this 12 spot because it closed. This 12 is a very important level. It tested it here, and it's just kind of slowly grinding, getting tighter. Now it's just kind of consolidating in this little flag pattern here, just below the 12 spot. So on this day right here, was it Wednesday? It closed right at 12, and I thought, okay, this thing looks like it's gonna go. And for whatever reason it didn't. They had earnings, I think, but then it really sold off and then closed not too bad on the day, and then Friday nothing much. So this is definitely one to watch as it kind of puts in a bull flag pattern here just below that 12. This could break 12. It could have a nice move, and that's what I'm watching for. GNK through 12. I will trade that one next week if it breaks that 12 spot. Salt, here's another one that ended up being a loss. So I'm watching this Salt here, and to me, this pattern here, right around $8 is the key level, right? And so SBLK broke out on this day, on Thursday, and I thought this one was going to go too. It's the same sector, had a good pattern, but it didn't. So it actually broke through this Wednesday's high through 795 area, or through 790, which was the high day at the time. And I thought this thing was actually going to try to go. And it did, briefly poke through 8, but then it got rejected and pulled back. And as it dropped down to, I think it was 775, I went ahead and exited the position from I think I entered at 792. So took a loss on this one. And you can see it closed at 750. And so the pattern just didn't do what I thought it was going to do, so I went ahead and closed it. So that was a small loss I took on Salt from last week. All right, CRBP, another biotech. All right, so this one was one that I traded, and I had this spot here at 925. Okay, so this is when I was watching for Thursday. And on Thursday it opened up, and it opened up above that 925 spot. I think it was 927 or something like that, but it was breaking through that level right at the open. So I went ahead and entered that position, and then pretty quickly it accelerated all the way to 10 bucks, right? And when it got to $10, it looked like it might break $10, but if you look at the chart, you can see here that this $10 spot right there, so right there at the 10, around $10, it's a whole number area, right? And it actually, so that was a nice move very quickly. And so I went ahead and closed my whole position on that one, and because it was right in this area of resistance. And even though I thought it might break, I was like, I can always buy it back or on a dip or something like that. But it had a very nice run up, so I closed my full position, and then it just kind of reversed and closed all the way back down here. So I just it still looks like it may go. Friday was kind of a pulled back, kind of a sideways close near the open, tight range scenario, still above the 925 spot. So this one still looks pretty good. I mean, it could actually get some momentum next week because it's still technically a breakout to that 925 spot, and with the resistances up there at the 10, 10.15 area from this candle. But it's definitely one to watch because the biotechs are strong right now. So that was one trade, a day trade that I made last week. ADSW. So here was the pattern, right? 2250 resistance. And then we had the break on this day, and then it had some follow through the next day. I didn't trade it, but it was a nice pattern. It was on the watch list, just kind of showing you guys. And then the depth of the pattern, right around 21, 25 and 2250. So there's your depth. Add that to the breakout, and there's your potential profit for the first target. PPHM, just another one from the watch list. I didn't trade it, but here was the pattern. Had the high here at 66 cents from this candle, and as a guy back here, I was watching it for a breakout, and on this day it actually gapped up on the day and opened up at like 72 cents. So I once I seen it gapped up that high, I didn't actually trade it, and you can see it just kind of closed back below the open there slightly. So you know, this was a case where, you know, buying the gap up, maybe it did actually run after the gap up. I didn't actually see, but this is a biotech that, you know, if this one would have opened up maybe around 66 or 67, I would have considered entering it for a push higher, but it gapped up, so I avoided it. All right, BIOC, here's one that I'm still eyeballing here. It's kind of got this spot at 250 area. It's not an exact spot, but it's the next logical kind of $half mark, whole dollar mark, and it's right around this area here. This was it opened at just like 246, closed, and so I'm still watching this one here. It's BIOC. It does look like it's gonna make a run. So it's a volatile name. So if I do trade it, it would probably be just a day trade because it's just a very dynamic, you know, has these really extreme swings. So if it actually does have a move up, you know, maybe my target would be this 277 area, somewhere in there, if it could break through 250. But this is one to watch, BIOC. I do think that one's going to have a push higher. Okay, AOI, this was on the watch list for Friday. From the high of this candle here, 49.50, closed right there, and then another one where it actually gapped up to 50, or just below 50, and then it just had a nice push the whole day. Another one that I missed, which I kind of regret, because Friday I was basically short selling NVIDIA all day, and I kind of missed some of these breakouts. But this one was a nice move, and just another example of one where if you do get a gap up or slight gap up, it's not the end of the world. You can still enter it as long as you you know, keep your stop tight, and if it doesn't actually drop below the opening price of the day, and it actually so that's what you want to see, kind of gap and go action versus gap and crap, you know, or gap and then turn red on the day. So, but this was a nice move. If anybody traded it, had a nice setup. Let's see. PIRS. Another bio name here. Very nice spot here at 222, is it? 224, right there. So it's sitting right below that spot, and 225, I guess is what it is. 224. Okay, so this was, you know, all these little candles back here, topped out at 224, had this gap, and then red, 224, and then now it's grinding back higher. So it's a pharmaceutical company, so it's in the right sector right now. So this is definitely one to watch. I think this one could go. Had some good volume over the last few days. So if this one can break through 224, I'd be very interested in going long this name. It's a very nice name for next week. Okay, SUPN. Here's one that I should not have missed because it was a very nice trade, but I just wasn't watching it. So it was on the watch list here. Had a couple of spots. The key, I guess the real key spot was 28, which is the high of these little wicks here. But also, if you kind of look at this chart, 2750 is also kind of a key area. It was the high of this move here, and kind of right in this range here. And so basically Thursday's big volume day. Put it on the radar because it was right near this spot here at 2750. And then on Friday, you know, it actually opened up pretty good, and then it just had a nice push all day. So this one, it was just a beautiful setup. I, for whatever reason, missed it and didn't trade it. By the time I looked at it, it was already up quite a bit. But you know, so that was a beautiful setup. Just one that I didn't catch. Now it looks a little extended. I'm not sure where I would enter it at this point. Could be going higher. But for the depth pattern, let's see here, 24 to say 2750, right? So what is that, $3.50. So you could add that to the breakout, and that would be kind of your first target area. But it was a nice trade, even if you day traded it or you're going to swing trade it. It's nice. PME, another one from the watch list, 450 spot, right up in this area here, right there at the high of this candle here. This Thursday's close ramped up here, so then you watch for that breakout, and then boom, just ran, nice push all day on good volume. So that could have been one you traded on the 450 break. I didn't trade that one either. So yeah, there was several names on Friday, nice breakouts that were on our watch list, and I didn't catch them because I was trying to short sell Nvidia, which I did pretty good with. It was all day trades, but all right. So the marijuana sector is in the shitter right now, but this one looks really good to me, guys. This APHQF, right? So this is one that I traded. I thought it was going to break. So this 512 spot is key, right? So here's this big gap up, and then it reversed, and it's been grinding higher. And if you compare this one to other names in the sector like TWMJF, some of the other Canadian weed plays, this one has the best looking chart. And so this one, on this day, I tried to go long it, and it broke, and then it faded because there was some news of Sessions saying something about cracking down on the marijuana sector or whatever, and so I closed my position, took a loss, and but you know, this 512 spot is right in here, which is the key level in my mind. You know, it actually closed right at the 512 spot. So this is a nice, very nice bull flag pattern here, and because it ramped up and it's just kind of sideways consolidation here. So this will be a top watch for Monday. If it can break through the 512 spot, I will definitely be buying this stock. And I know the sector is not really strong, but you know, this is a pattern that I can't ignore. It looks so good and looks like it's ready to go. So I'll be definitely looking interested in getting into this one early next week. Okay, next one, Excel, another biotech. You know, once again, there's lots of these biotechs that are looking good now. So here's just the spot right up here. You know, you could use the high of these two candles, but basically it looks like right around this 2320, 2330 area, somewhere in there, would be a trigger to go long. So it may act as resistance, or it may actually break. So just one to watch, though. It's a nice looking chart. EXEL. It's in the right sector. It's a biotech. All right, PTX, another biotech, and this spot on this one is $4. Four was approximately the high of this candle here, even though it closed it just below 4. Got up to there. This one, it gapped up above 4 and then faded, and then this candle here got to 4, pulled back, and then this one gapped up. So it's right near that 4 spot, And if we look at kind of a longer term chart, let's see here, it looks like maybe you know, 420 area from these candles, but this one looks good. If it can break 4, you know, I might be interested in taking this one long. So we'll have to keep an eye on this one. Alright. Next up, UAL, an airline stock. You see it had this nice long base here, and it's got this right at this 76, let's see, 76, what is that, 76.72, something like that. But anyway, you can see the high of all these wicks is right there, 76.73, once, twice, you know, 3, 4, and this is you know, this has been basing here for quite a while. So once it's not a you know, not a huge moving name, but it's a nice pattern. Looks like it's going to break out of this basing pattern to the upside. And that's United Airlines, UAL. I like that one. Here we go, another biotech here, right at this 32 area. So this one closed at 32.23. So 32 is really kind of the key level here from this high. From this high got rejected, and then now it's right back up there. So just another good looking biotech that looks like it's ready to make some new highs. Yeah, so this is a new, you know, and you can see here the saying is actually at the highest closing price in history of the company. So looks like it IPO'd not too long ago, a year or so. But ACRS on this, basically on a breakout through Friday's high, would be a trigger to go long this one. Another nice looking biotech. All right, CBPX, this is a general building material company. So basically an infrastructure play. So here was the real break, was on this 22, let's say 24 area. Here was the basing pattern. It broke out on the Trump news of building up the U.S. and the infrastructure here. This thing ran up, and so now it looks like it's kind of flagging last couple days. So I would use basically a breakout of 25.80, Friday's close. You know, this thing could just keep getting some more momentum. But the highest closing price so far has been 28, right at 28.82 looks like, or 28.80, somewhere in there. Yeah, 28.80. So it looks like it's going to be flagging here, but it definitely looks like there's more upside in this name. PRTK, another biotech or pharmaceutical. 1630 area was the break. It's just above that, so this one could see some continued momentum. Nice looking chart, one to watch for next week. So yeah, there's a lot of good looking biotechs out there, or pharmaceutical biotech sector. Looks good. Cara. Alright, so this is one where, you know, this 17 spot, it tried to break this on Thursday, and then it faded all the way back. And this, to me, this was kind of a warning sign, like, hey, you couldn't hold your gains, you ramped up and you closed all the way back at the lows or below the lows. And I thought this was kind of not a normal activity, not normal action. So it kind of caused me some concern here, and I thought it could potentially be a reversal. But you can see here, on Friday it gapped up and basically ran and closed just above 18. So this one actually looks like it's going higher, and I wouldn't be surprised if this one breaks 18 and has a nice big run, nice big push on Monday. It's a nice chart. It closed right at the high of Thursday's high, the high, that wick, that candle. It closed right at that high there, and so this one, maybe it's going back up here to 22. Very strong chart. I also think this is a marijuana play, by the way. I think it's also in the sector, the biotech sector, that also deals in making marijuana-based medicinals or something like that. But it's a nice looking chart, and it looks like it's going higher. All right, and the last up is NVIDIA. Just kind of talk to you guys really quick on what I'm seeing on this NVIDIA chart. So this one has been a big runner, and you can take a look at kind of a 2-year chart. So you can see this is a big runner, and this 50-day moving average, you can see this as it's running up, how it just bounces off the 50-day. You see that, right? So the 50-day moving average acts as a long-term support for this name. So it went down here from, I don't know, $40, ran all the way up to 120. And so what you're seeing on this chart is a major reversal going on, because a couple of things, the key support level, the 50-day moving average, it failed, right? So it didn't hold that. It put in a double top here at $1 or $120, tapped it again and failed. And then also this key support level, if we zoom in, is this $100 level. So this is a key level that just Jesse Livermore, I know I talked about him before in the past, but a famous speculator from the early 1900s, used these key levels like $100, $200, $300 as pivot points, and how stocks acted at those levels determined whether or not he was going to hold the stock long, if it actually broke to that level with conviction, or if it kind of got to that level and just above it and then kind of dropped back below it and wouldn't really hold it, then that would be a key warning sign to get out. But the fact that this one put in basically a double top, right, at 120, it fell below the 50-day moving average, which is a key support for the past year, and the fact that it broke below this $100 level is a key sign that this thing's going lower. So I was looking to short sell this just to kind of get, practice up on short selling, and I wanted to get short basically at around 99, the low from Thursday, but I couldn't because it just gapped down and ran and dropped off all day. So if we look at, so this is intraday on Friday. So this is one that I did day trade, and so this one faded off like this, and then as it ramped up, right, near the high day, right here, is where I actually got short, and it actually did pull back, had a nice pullback down here, and I took some profits, and then it ran up again, and I shorted it again. So I'm using this kind of the high of day area as kind of my risk, and then it kind of just faded off again near 98, and so it kind of went sideways, and I thought maybe this thing was going to kind of roll over on Friday and just kind of fade off towards the low of day. Well, it didn't do that, so I shorted here at 98, and then I ended up covering up, I think at like 98.40, somewhere in there, and then it ended up just kind of sideways for the rest of the day. So some nice day trade shorts on this one, but I may actually look to get short again on this one, just to practice, because I do think the major trend is now down. So it's just more of me kind of branching out of my normal breakout long trading to try to get a little bit better at short selling. But that being said, I also missed some of those nice biotech breakouts on Friday. So it's just one of those things where you can't do everything. So all right, guys, hope you guys had a great weekend, some nice setups for Monday, and we'll see you guys on Monday. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Thanks.